Cowboys and the Angels take on Francisco Lindor and the Indians. It all starts at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Back here with Coach Mangini, we're going viral. Check this out. Odell catching passes from a jugs machine barehanded with one hand. Reportedly caught 67 of these in a row. In my opinion, he's very close to the machine, but I'm also not a professional football player, so...
Cris, once upon a time, was a jugs machine spokesman. Might still be. I'm not quite certain.
Yeah, I still got the connection.
As you would say, the best way to train yourself catching footballs. 67 in a row, one-handed after training camp practice.
No gloves.
I mean, that's part of his job. Yeah, and he didn't catch 67 in a row because I saw him just drop one right there. I wouldn't catch him frontal as much because the ball typically is not coming right at your face, man. I like to go on the side, over the shoulder. But he knows what he's doing. We've talked about these things. Nice.
I mean, that's exciting. They're probably going to win the Super Bowl. What?
Yeah, the rest of the league, you see them packing up there in the background.
Yeah,
that's good. Coach, you can't be down on extra work after practice. You can't be so down on...
How does it become a viral clip? I like extra work that people do privately because they're working really hard. And
Coach, he didn't put it out
let's
there.
Get on the jugs machine.
Someone on the Browns put it out there.
Okay.
It's not him.
Hey, look, I'm excited about it.
Coach is like, you didn't tell him. He got this green room 5 minutes.
Man, there's some guys can't win for losing. You're even wearing your Browns colored tie, too.
Well, I saw the clip before.
Stories to start your morning, sponsored by Gillette Clear Gel. Here we go. We start with some terrible news for the Cincinnati Bengals. A.J. Green was carted off the field in training camp. He's now out 6 to 8 weeks with torn ligaments in his ankle, making him unlikely to be on the field week 1 for Cincinnati. See, what was your reaction when you heard the news?
One of the most underrated wide receivers that we've had in the league the last 8 years, and he started off, man, him and Julio Jones, stat for stat. First 7 years, last 2 years, A.J. Green's gotten hurt. And you're talking about a stable voice, a stable personality, one of the low-maintenance wide receivers you'll ever have in the NFL. This is a big injury for them. I believe he's going to miss probably the first month of the season.
And that might be the most competitive division in football, with the defending champion AFC North Ravens, defending AFC North champion Ravens, the Steelers, who expect to bounce back, and Coach Mangini's Cleveland Browns. To not have the best player on your team for the first month of the year is brutal.
Yeah, it's just devastating for a new head coach, and you really want to see what they can do offensively, and it's just so hard to overcome.
Giants also got some bad news. Golden Tate suspended for 4 games after testing positive for using a fertility drug. They've also already lost Corey Coleman for the season to a torn ACL, and Sterling Shepard has a fractured finger. If only the Giants had another top receiver to rely on, but they don't. Coach, what do you make of what's going on with the Giants?
Well, this is one of those excuses that actually seem viable to me. I mean, I don't know a lot about the fertility drugs, but it actually seemed like this could be one of those mistakes that was a legitimate mistake. I'm curious to see where this goes.
Well, we've had at least one other player, and I think 2 other players, fail a test for the same reason. And the NFL, it's like, hey, that stinks, but you still got to serve those 4 games. So Golden Tate almost assuredly is going to miss these 4 games. And for the Giants, it means they've got Evan Ingram and question marks at wide receiver after in a year where they're either going to be starting a rookie or trying to prop up Eli. They all of a sudden have a wide receiving group that for the first month of the season will be the most bereft of talent of any in the league.
I'm all about fulfilling God's commission, be fruitful and multiply. But a couple guys have already got dinged with the fertility thing. Listen, if I'm having an issue or something, I can't give you no baby until I'm out the league. I told my wife, we can't do this. I can't jeopardize. Man, he lost a couple $1 million there. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. And them kids are going to cost you more money, man. That's a bad
They're
beat.
real expensive.
I can't. I have no words. I have no words except more football words. Good news for Bobby Wagner. He signed a 3-year, $54 million extension with the Seahawks this week, and he doesn't need fertility drugs.
Nope.
With over $40 million guaranteed, making him the highest paid inside linebacker in football. See, put this into perspective, just how good is Wagner?
I believe Bobby Wagner, for a long period of time, was the best defender that they had. Yes, even when they had Earl, even when they had Sherm, Cam Chancellor, they got all the news, but Bobby was the stabilizing force. You cannot throw the ball intermediate or short against him. He is so quick on his reads, his diagnosis in the running game. You have not been able to run the ball on Seattle since he's been there. That's the best compliment you can give an inside linebacker.
I was really impressed that he did his own contract, and one of the main reasons was he wanted the organization to have to tell him the negative things they felt about him, which makes it's really hard to sit across from the player and say, well, you're not as good as this guy, or you failed at this, and then have to go back out and have him lead your team. Thought that was a really interesting take that, or a way that he went, and it paid off.
And he got a great contract, and
and he doesn't have to pay commission.
Right, and he got the great contract for himself, but also for the team in this regard, because it's only a 3-year deal. If his play does fall off, they're not committed to him long term.
All right, let's finish up with Ezekiel Elliott. He did not show up to camp on Friday, continued to hold out throughout the weekend. According to reports, he has yet to counter the Cowboys' extension offer. Could be a long battle between the two sides. Coach Mangini, is Zeke handling this the right way? Is there a right way?
Yeah, there really isn't a great way to handle a holdout. But I actually understand where he's coming from. They're talking about...
Whoa, Coach.
I know.
Hey.
Well, here, from a business perspective, you've got Dak and Amari, who are about to get paid. So he could be very easily coming back next season, and they're saying, well, look, we spent all that money on Dak, and we spent all that money on Amari. We don't really have as much money for you. So by inserting himself into these two contracts, now they've got to take that pot of money and divvy it up equally, or divvy it up however they see those three players. And I think that's a smart play by him, and to do it at this point with all the praise that's been heaped on him, with what he stirs the
straw that stirs the drink.
When you start praising a player like that, then you better pay him like, I mean, that's a platinum straw, or I don't even know what metal that would be.
First of all, I really want to give you a hug right now. I'm so glad this is this is what you said.
Don't do that.
Boundaries.
But I am, and while I agree with you nearly entirely, and I think the Cowboys they backed themselves into this corner. Stephen Jones talked about, and Jerry talked about paying Dak. They all talked about paying Amari. And then Stephen Jones in May said two very interesting things about paying Zeke. One was, the exact quote is, obviously, it starts at what Todd Gurley got and goes from there. Well, I mean, that's just handing not a blank check, but a 4-year, $58 million with $45 million guaranteed check, and saying it starts from there. But the other thing he said was, but we've got a couple years to get this done. I'm sure Zeke heard that and said, wait, a couple years? You're talking about taking care of all these other guys. I've been the best player on your team. And while Cris is adamant, and I totally agree, that it is not Zeke's responsibility to worry about other guys getting paid, I am curious as a coach if you'd be concerned about how this could play in the locker room when Zeke, while we can argue he's been underpaid, he's paid like a top 5 pick. Dak, who's been the quarterback, who's never missed a game, never been in trouble, has been paid like a 4th-round pick, which is $1 million a year thereabouts. And Zeke almost trying to cut the line in this regard. I think it's totally justifiable on Zeke's end, but would you worry about how the locker room, most notably Dak and Amari, are going to react to Zeke not being there when they are there?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but those contracts are in the works, and his contract was not in the works. So he, and I'm sure he approached him and said, this is something I want to do. They said, you're probably going to have to wait, and he took a stand. And look, I get where he's coming from a business perspective. Now, I wonder if he's going to take a step back and say, okay, I was suspended for those games. I did have the other issue this offseason that didn't really go anywhere, but there's been some things along those lines, and it is early. Is he going to take some discount because of those behaviors? And typically, the answer is no to that.
How long do you think this will play out for? Do you think this would bleed into the regular season?
I don't think so. I think the Cowboys understand how important he is. I mean, Amari's great, and Dak's great.
He's the focal point of this offense.
Yeah, he is the straw that stirs the drink. They were right on with saying that. So they're going to have to get him in and figure out a way to make this work.
And he's the best player on the team. This is what the players respect in the locker room. Who's the best? All right? You don't think, oh, man, did this guy get in trouble? Oh, did this guy, he get a traffic ticket? Man, we don't care. We don't care, man. Who can play the game of football? Who's going to make the Dallas Cowboys better? When you get in that locker room, that's what becomes important. All that, I was drafted in the 4th round. Well, that's your problem. That ain't no one else's problem. There's all kinds of stories. You imagine me telling Johnny Randall, hey, Johnny, you were a street free agent. You know something? Hey, buddy, that's tough luck. Man, Johnny Randall was out there getting his. I played with 7 Hall of Famers. You think we didn't have times where they were